I'm from Denver, Colorado.
And what are you studying?
Right now, I'm pursuing my doctoral degree in rhetoric and composition.
My ethnicity is African American. I consider it. I mean, I'm half and half, so technically I'm white and African American. But yeah, studying economics with a minor in business or general business, and it's going well so far. It wasn't my original major. I was intending to major in finance, but SMU came here.
Oh, so you transferred?
Yeah, I transferred from SMU.
I'm from Waco, Texas. Currently, I'm a speech pathology major. I already had an idea that the school was going to be small because of the student-teacher ratio. And when I arrived on campus, I was actually impressed. I was more impressed with the buildings, the structure, how everything was set up. I can tell they put a lot of money into their infrastructure. And the reason I went here, obviously, I'm on a basketball scholarship. So I knew a lot about the school from the coaches and being recruited. And I think the only thing I may have been disappointed in was the fact that a lot of students complain about this. They don't have good parking.
Oh.
They don't have good parking, and I also feel that I guess some of the issues that students want to be fixed, they don't get fixed. Because I know a lot of us complain about parking. A lot of us complain about we want our money to go towards this, but obviously we're not in control of that.
When I arrived at TCU, I was very surprised. I've been to Fort Worth before during the summers when I was younger, and I knew that it was a pretty diverse community and there were a lot of African Americans within the community. But when I came to TCU, I seen only a lot of white students, which was fine. But what surprised me the most was that everyone looked alike. Everyone dressed the same. They had on the same brand of clothes, same style of clothes, same shoes. So it was pretty much a culture shock for me because I come from a very diverse community that has a lot of different ethnicities united together. So it was interesting for me to see a wide amount of white students at TCU, but then a lot of African American and Hispanics in the community surrounding TCU.
I was actually surprised, coming from SMU, because SMU is predominantly white, and coming here, I was kind of expecting the same thing because it's a private institution and a very wealthy area and wealthy people that come here, But I was actually surprised at how it's not as diverse as a public school, but it's a lot more diverse than SMU. And I came here, I saw a lot of good things. I connected with people. People are a lot more down to earth here than SMU. Not all caught up in their money. So I liked it.
My overall experience at TCU has been very accommodating, very unique. I came in with a specific interest. I want to study the rhetoric and racism of prisons and the convict discourse as well. So my professors have been very helpful in networking with me, introducing me to other resources, and just making my experience at TCU the best that they can possible as far as academically.
I've had a good overall experience at TCU. Once I got my little group of friends, and I had just people I could hang out with. I'm the type of guy where I like to hang out with a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. So I have like different groups that I'll hang out with because I can fit in with a lot of different groups because of my ethnicity and stuff. And being able to come here, and being able to go to those groups and go to those different groups and fit in without them being like, oh, he's because that's how it was at SMU. I tried to fit in and stuff, and if you don't have money, you really don't fit in. So, wow. But here they're a lot more accepting, and everyone's just chilled down to earth. So.
Me personally, no. Thinking off the bat, extreme accounts of racism, probably no, but a few of my friends, in particular, not going to say any names, but some were Asian, some were black. They may have experienced just, I guess you could say, racial stereotypes. or
Tension.
yeah, tension in a certain crowd, or you can tell that they stand out, and people may treat them differently based on skin color or cultural differences. So just little things like that, but not anything like extreme.
I wouldn't exactly go as far to call it racism, but I would say that I've experienced racial tensions. What I mean by that is I've personally felt at times that I've been given opportunities, good and bad, because of my ethnicity. For a specific example, there have been a couple of African American professors, visiting professors here from other universities, who talked about their experience as a professor or their interest in African American studies and the books they've written. And I had no knowledge of these professors before. I have not met them. I've never read their texts, but I was always given the opportunity to host them, have conversations with them, go to dinners with them, email them, and talk with them as a networking opportunity. And I felt like I was given first dibs on this just because I was African American, because it doesn't look as good when you bring people to talk about African American studies and you don't really have anyone in the audience that they can identify with. So I feel as if that was a racial tension, as well as within my department and my fellow students, I felt as if they labeled me at times. A lot of them come from more conservative towns than I did, and when they heard that I was African American, even though I'm clearly biracial, they kind of had this assumption that I came from a lower class community, maybe even poverty, or I didn't grow up with opportunities, I wasn't privileged in any kind of way. And I grew up with a pretty good background. I come from a high middle class, working class family. And I've always had the opportunity to be educated. I've always had the opportunity to pursue anything I wanted to. But for them, that's not what an African American represents or comes from. So I felt as if there was a tension there because I was judged by a stigma attached to a race that I identify with.
I have. One of my friends actually, it was kind of an awkward experience because the person who was the violator is actually one of my friends as well. But it was just, we were going to eat, and we were all in the car, and we were going through the drive-thru, and we were like ordering food or whatever, and he just made some racist comments, and he was like, y'all should have been first, it's in the back, you're black or whatever. And it got awkward. Took him back to his apartment. I was like, yeah, I haven't really hung out with him since.
Yeah, I definitely would. I feel like every campus, every university has small changes that you want to make, and TCU's not perfect, but overall, I've enjoyed my experience. I don't have any major complaints about it.
I really like this question because I've been asking myself that since I got here, and as of right now, I think the answer would be no. When I first got here, of course, the answer would be yes, because I didn't really realize what I was up against. But now that I've been here for a whole year, I've learned that there are a lot of politics involved with the race still at TCU and in Texas that I was not exposed to in Colorado. I was raised to be, I guess, very liberal, which I didn't think that way at all. I thought that I had pretty much normal values or normal ideals. But the way it is in Texas at TCU, race is pretty important. And the way I'm viewed sometimes, and maybe even the way I'm treated, doesn't create an environment that I would like to stay in. But I always tell myself and others I wouldn't want someone else to go through this. So while I'm here, I need to make a difference and make it a little bit easier too. So of course I would stay, but if I knew ahead of time, I don't think I would take on the challenge.
Given my past and my perspective, yes, I would. I love this college. It's a great college. It's got a great group of people here.
As far as treatment-wise or being looked at differently, I don't think so. I think the only way that it may make me stand out or play a role is a lot of African American students here at TCU, sometimes we automatically get put into the athlete role. And that may be because, you know, there's not a lot of us, or it could just be because we always wear athletic gear. But I've known people that I'm walking with that are friends that aren't even athletes, and they're just kind of thrown into that category as well. Not sure if it's based off of, you know, skin color. Maybe they just look like an athlete, but that's probably the only thing.
I feel like to a certain extent it does, just because, you know, there's always going to be those underlying racial issues. But I feel like you can overcome it. I feel like you can get past it if you just don't think about it. Because, I mean, you know, if you hang out, say you're a black person, and you're hanging out with a group of Caucasian people, and, you know, they're going to have jokes, and they're going to have inside jokes, and, you know, some of them might not be what you find appropriate, but, you know, you got to deal with it to a certain extent. You got to just know, yeah, you know, it's whatever. I am what I am. I'm not going to let that bother me.
I do feel like it matters, especially to TCU, because TCU advertises and promotes for diversity, and they say they welcome diversity and they want to diversify their students. So I always feel like I'm that token student, that I'm the face of TCU because I represent this diversity that they say that they value so much. And that's all you hear around the department, and that's all that's been attached to my name since I've gotten here. And I've been able to use it to my benefit because I am a product of differences, so I can advertise myself well. But it's way more important than it was at my undergrad. And I think that's because diversity was natural at my undergrad school. So I think it's important to TCU, but I don't know how hard they're really working to reach the goal of diversifying TCU. One thing that I haven't seen here or in Texas that was at my undergrad was a lot of biracial students. We, like I said, there were a lot of Hispanics, African Americans, whites. There were biracials. We had a lot of students from international students, of course, as well. A lot of Hawaiian students too, people identified with multiple different races and ethnicities, and it wasn't something that we ever talked about that we needed more of because it was just, I guess, a subtle expectation. It was the way that we were all used to being raised and we grew up with each other, so it wasn't a priority for our school to demand more of it because we already had it. So I definitely think that TCU uses race to their benefit, and that I feel as if they say that they have more diversity, or if they present more diversity, then they can say that they have that they're collaborating with the community, or they have this bond within the community. And I think they feel as if having more ethnicities at their school makes them look better. But I also think, especially within myself, that because I'm biracial and not full African American, but I'm treated as a full African American, at times it may feel like TCU wants the diversity without really getting diversity. Because a lot of their African American students are athletes, so that greatly benefits the school because they have a bigger and probably better athletic department. But you don't see as many ethnicities on academic scholarships or within other disciplines, and I feel like that's a problem too. So there are politics with race, as in there's enough diversity to make it look good here. But it's not as fully pursued as it could be.
Where I'm from in Waco, I feel like the subject of race is talked about a lot more, and I feel like at TCU sometimes certain racial issues can get swept under the rug, and we kind of turn a blind eye as if it didn't happen, or it's not happening, or we just, just kind of just push it off to the side. And just from where I'm from, I guess it was just a more open discussion about race in general. And being here, I just feel like people obviously know history and know that certain racial tension still exists presently today, but it's not as openly talked about.
Race wasn't really a factor where I was raised. Well, depending on where, because I was raised all over.
Mm-hmm.
There were places where race was a big factor, such as in Philadelphia and
Oh, wow.
some of the northern states I've been in, North Carolina. But Texas, Frisco, Texas, actually surprisingly is not like that at all. I went to high school there for 3 years, and race just isn't. I mean, you'll have like people will play around with it and stuff, but no one actually, from what I feel, really means stuff. It's just like
They're not
all fun and
equal.
games. Yeah, it's like a white person will pick on themselves, or they'll be like, God, I'm such a white person. Or like a black guy will pick on himself, be like, oh my gosh, that's the black in me, or whatever. It's not really like out to get somebody.
Yeah.
I feel, and I mean this in a positive way, but race wasn't as important because, like I said, it's something that we grew up with. Diversity was already there. It was something that we were used to, and it was natural. But for TCU to have to advertise and demand for race, it calls into question how important it is to them and why exactly it is important.